Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome to the Sajdah Morning Coffee Talk. You're tuned in, and I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're going to be covering a very serious topic and having a discussion about a serious topic. I don't know if it's environmental racism, if it is resource shortages. I don't know. But we're going to be talking about these ongoing power shortages in Gary, Indiana. So be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll be right back on the other side of a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Thank you for joining this morning. Thank you if you joined in last night. We had a very powerful talk back regarding cultural and historic preservation. It was a talk back from our replay of the conversation that, well, not the conversation, but the program that we did with our sister Tammy McCann, and the historical narration that she does with music and storytelling around the life of Mahalia Jackson. And she curated some beautiful music. We dedicated it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it really, really was a fabulous healing event. And so we wanted to do a talk back on it. We may continue that conversation tomorrow, but this morning I thought it was necessary that we have a conversation about what is going on in in Gary, Indiana, with these ongoing power outages. Okay. If you have not heard, let me give you a little bit of update. I'm going to show you a news story here so that you can see what is going on. And I'm working on reaching out to a couple of people to see if there's any volunteer efforts. Gary, Indiana is a very special place for us here in this region of the United States of America. Gary is really Chicagoland area. We should not be sitting idly by while they're going through what they are going through. And it's a very special place for the Nation of Islam as well. And so with that, I just want to talk about that today, because I don't know if it's a play for environmental racism, which I'm going to talk about when we come back, if it's shortage of resources. But we all know what happens economically in an area that suffers this type of damage, that goes this prolonged period of time without any support. Now, this is when you're supposed to be bringing in the National Guard and bringing in the generators. If something's wrong with the infrastructure and we can't get it back up, this is when the government should kick in. And I just heard that the state of Indiana got, a nice little trough of money from FEMA. So what's happening? Why are we not helping Gary? Let's look at that and have a conversation about that today.
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, it was a welcome sight. I saw several truckloads of power repair crews heading down 35th Avenue less than 10 minutes ago. More than 25,000 homes and businesses here in just Gary are on day 8 with no power. Here at the Citgo, the gas pumps aren't working. So it's a generator that's keeping some business alive, at least some business, to power it. The owner of this Citgo says he had to buy fuel somewhere else. Inside, ice cream is melting in the freezer, and several cans of soda and juice are warm. The generator is only able to keep a floodlight on, the register running, and one fridge cool. We asked how much 8 days with no electricity is costing this gas station.
As far as revenue, it's in the tens of thousands. And then product, I want to say I've thrown away about $5,000 to $7,000 worth of dairy stuff, ice cream and stuff like that. And there's still more that needs to be thrown away.
Students in Gary were supposed to return to class today, but district officials decided kids need to stay home. NIPSCO hasn't given residents here any timeline for restoration. Gary's mayor told us earlier this week that the power company is still assessing damage here. And in Munster, the first day of school is still TBD because NIPSCO says electricity might not be fully restored until next Tuesday. Even children who have power in places like St. John are impacted because they're still not back in the classroom. That's because of ongoing outages in other towns feeding their district, like Dyer and Schererville. An update from Lake Central Schools on Monday said the lights are now working in most buildings, but some fire alarm and air conditioning systems are on the fritz. We noticed a small but important tweak to NIPSCO's statewide updates posted in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, they were saying their emergency response mode would be activated until this Friday. Now they're saying that emergency response mode is until next Friday. Dana, I'm Lauren Victor reporting live in Gary, CBS News Chicago.
Oh my gosh, such a difficult situation.
All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm going to be fussing this show because this is a shame. First off, again, we got to get up and do something for ourselves. Yeah, NIPSCO need to be doing their job. And the state of Indiana need to be doing their job. But where's our famous people from Gary, Indiana? Where's our artists? Where's our athletes with the deep pockets that could go in and say, hey, here's $1 million to put generators in each home? You're talking 25,000 people. Let's say it costs $10,000 for a generator. I don't know. That's $250,000. And maybe the generator covers several homes on a block. But we can't just keep sitting here reporting on it. I'm working on getting us a list of volunteer efforts that we can post so that we can go over there and help and aid and assist. I don't know if this is an environmental, economic, racist thing, like what we believe allegedly happened in New Orleans when the levees imploded. And then all of a sudden, there's all this controversy over who's going to build back, what's going to happen. Because we're not even talking about the damage from the tornado that had the tornadoes, several tornadoes that happened in Gary. We're not only talking about that. We're just talking right now about let's just get the power back on. Then people can see and assess and see what's going on. You're talking about all kind of pumps not working. This is very, very serious. So my question is this environmental racism? Like what we saw in Gary? Is it a Flint type of situation? But this should not, with the amount of money that flows through our community and the amount of resources that we have, this should not continue to happen in our cities and areas where we are the primary governing bodies. And I get it. We're like, look, we're not the electricity supplier. We got to start figuring out some other kind of emergency plan of action. All of these little towns and cities, we should be putting together, I don't care if it's a think tank, it's a strategic plan, whatever you got to call it, put that together, because we already know that when tragedy happens, our community is the last one to receive the resources. And instead of us continuing to sit here and looking at the plan over and over and over again, let's have some conversation. We should be having these conversations in Dalton, in Harvey, Hazelcrest, all these areas where the majority of us live, Chicago Heights, and say, hey, how are we going to respond? How are we going to respond when they don't come turn the power back on? The minister just told us, watch the weather. So that don't mean it's ending. Let's start organizing. Let's start putting a plan together. Let's start sitting down and figuring out how are we going to save ourselves if something happened. We have enough people that are wealthy in our communities. How we know that this isn't something that's happening from a capitalist standpoint, designed to drive us out of the area so they can move back in and have lakefront property when the Bear Stadium go up out there, allegedly. I don't know, but we need to do a better job at preparing. I want to continue to cover this. Let's see, I'm going to show you something else here, because I know a lot of people just don't know what's going on. Somebody told me, I was mentioning it to somebody yesterday, and they said, oh, I didn't even know, this was happening. Check this coverage out.
Stop everything. It's just come to my attention that Gary, Indiana, which is close to me, a lot of my family, cousins, right next door to Chicago, grew up in Gary. And we would go visit Gary often, but Gary has been without power now for like a week, and no one seems to be reporting on this. And this was just brought to my attention. So let's just take a look at what's going on here. Make sure you guys can hear. Also come into the chat, holler at me. Well, yeah, let's check this out.
Right now, Griffith police officers are going door to door doing welfare checks while a third of the town remains without power. That's roughly 5,500 customers, according to town leaders, who are now calling on NIPSCO to do more and fast.
I haven't had power in 7 days. I'm diabetic and I have my medicine in a refrigerator.
Frustration on both sides of the podium about NIPSCO.
It's frustrating. We're not getting an honest discussion back from them.
Fills the small council chamber in Griffith, Indiana.
We haven't seen anybody assess anything from behind Wood and 39th all the way to Arbogast. There's about 8 trees down still.
Residents and town leaders voicing their concerns during a council meeting while thousands in Northwest Indiana remained without power 1 week after storms left a trail of damage. We saw contractors out, finally removing debris from Broad Street in town.
This tree's been here as long as the home, and we've never been out of power longer than 24 hours, and this has been the worst I've ever seen.
It only happened after Town Council President Rick Rifa says he reached out directly to a NIPSCO lineman. While he's also forced to use this generator for electricity at his house.
NIPSCO doesn't allow.
Okay, so wait, is NIPSCO short of resources? Do they need help? I know they're making a ton of money out there, and maybe they need to call some neighboring utility companies. And most of the coverage that I've seen have been in Griffith, Indiana, and the even poorer or disadvantaged people, we're not even hearing about it.
Anybody, including the town, to clear tree limbs that are on live wires or even dead wires. That's their policy.
NIPSCO did not respond to our questions on whether removing debris and trees from power lines is the company's responsibility or each municipality.
I think today is the breaking point when we aren't seeing a whole lot of NIPSCO trucks in town. We understand we're not the only ones to be affected by this terrible storm.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's an important distinction. Whose responsibility is it to repair the power lines, remove debris from the power lines? In some of these cases, a lot of these municipalities may have limited resources, but again, we have to, I'm talking about our community, the Black community, and I'm not hating on nobody else's community. I'm talking about being very specific about us in general. We have to begin to say, okay, where can we get resources from if the municipality does not come to our neighborhood? How can we start removing debris, even if it's just from the street? Maybe it's too dangerous to remove it from the power lines, because obviously we don't want to be exposed to live electricity. But what about so they can at least move down the street? Who do we have that can reach out and go and get additional resources? How do we make this happen? I'm sorry, I got to keep.
However, we still have 3/4 of our population without power.
In the meantime, NIPSCO is calling this massive power outage the worst the company has experienced in its history and asking customers to remain patient. This while the company says in nearby Munster and Highland, people there might not get their power back on until next week, Tuesday. In Griffith, Indiana, I'm Trey Ward, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, so this is a problem. And this just represents a problem that I think we're having just in the U.S. And I think it's a problem that's being disguised. I think we are entering a time where we're like low-key becoming a third world country. I think a lot of our power grids and a lot of our infrastructure that we have in this country is like unraveling and falling apart. And then you have people too, like I had a cousin, she passed, but she was actually on a, she had you couldn't turn her power off because she was on a heart, she had the heart thing to keep her heart going. And if power was to go out and.
All right, I wanted you to see what was happening in Griffith. And I was reading a statement that I saw, Yeah, Speed says civil engineering and the sanitation department would be needed. Absolutely. But, I guess what I'm saying is us bringing in resources so that people have something to eat, so we can start clearing the road so that people can move around. If folks need to go to a shelter that is run by a generator, if we have to start donating some generators. I've been doing some research because you all know we cover on this show some of the environmental effects that happen that sometimes we think are just from a disaster, but it's our lack of recovery in our community. One of the notes I wrote when we talked about Acres Homes in Houston, I said Black communities frequently experience slower, less equitable recoveries after natural disasters due to systemic disparities in infrastructure, funding, and resource allocation. Studies and civil rights organizations show that the aftermath often compounds historical disadvantages rather than resetting them. Okay, here's some of the disparities in aid that we experience. Lower federal assistance. Okay, Black neighborhoods and applicants receive less total funding on average from agencies like FEMA compared to white areas, partly because aid formulas are tied to property values and real estate appraisals. So y'all heard us talking about on this show how our communities are undervalued because of real estate appraisals in many cases, not only preventing businesses from going in, but it also impacts that disaster recovery. Let me read that again. Lower federal assistance. This is one of the disparities in the aid and investment after a natural disaster in Black communities. Black neighborhoods and applicants receive less total funding on average from agencies like FEMA compared to white areas. We saw this after Hurricane Katrina, partly because aid formulas are tied to property values and real estate appraisals. So when we are continuing to allow this devaluation of our property values and things like that, that also changes how the flow of cash comes in after a natural disaster. The other thing we talked about on that show was delayed infrastructure restoration. Essential services such as power grids, clean water, and public transit are often restored last in predominantly Black or lower income neighborhoods. That was from the NAACP. Delayed infrastructure restoration. So not only are the recovery dollars decreased or delayed because of the devaluations on the books in our community, okay? But then there's a delay in the infrastructure response. I'm going to show, I have a thing from Roland Martin where he's covering what's happening in the Black community. And I want you all to go and search TikTok, search Instagram, search Facebook, and see what is going on in our community as a result of this now 11-day power outage. Here's another thing that happens. SBA and business loans. Rebuilding loans from the Small Business Administration are historically distributed in lower volumes to disaster-struck Black communities. Okay? This needs to be going before Congress. We need to be looking at before we elect the next person. Don't vote for somebody who is not supporting your community. And then let's start mobilizing our own people. We got enough construction workers and engineers and people with money, millionaires and billionaires within our community that we can do a better job at responding when our own people are in disaster, and then start filing lawsuits against these people who are not responding. Now, let's talk about the other things. And we covered this in our environmental racism episode that we did on Acres Home. So you can go back and search in my archives here and see it. We're talking about also prolonged displacement. Black residents face significantly longer periods of housing displacement after major events like hurricanes or floods, delaying their return or forcing permanent relocation. Next one is health and environmental risks. And this was a big one because the amount of mold that was happening, for example, after Hurricane Katrina, was severely impacting people's health. Segregated housing patterns. Oh, and we covered this in Acres Home. Remember the brother whose daughter and wife is going into kidney failure and having respiratory issues because of the environmental issues? This is an example. Health and environmental risks. Segregated housing patterns frequently place Black communities near industrial corridors, okay, or toxic waste sites. This is what we talked about with the brother from Acres Homes in Houston, which overflow our contaminant neighborhoods during severe weather events. Then there's just the overall generational loss. They start the ball rolling. This is systemic. When our appraisers and the valuations on our community properties, both residential and commercial, are intentionally lowered, the recovery dollars are decreased because they are based oftentimes on valuation. Now you have all the crime that comes in because of all the devastation that happens. You have the environmental cleanup that is required. And then we have a loss of generational wealth. Home ownership is a primary driver of generational wealth. Uninsured or underinsured property damage permanently strips families of equity when they cannot afford to rebuild. What we often see in many of these areas where the real estate outside of their valuation is relatively prime, at least the location is. We know that this part of Indiana is right there on Lake Michigan. You're talking about near the beach, right between Chicago and Indiana. Now, Indiana allegedly just got some federal dollars. I don't know why it's not coming up here to Northwest Indiana. Maybe it's on its way. It's walking here. It's taking a minute. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up here in a minute. But I see where we did cover the NAACP study on how this affects Black communities. Now, let me look up these federal dollars before we go to our next. Let's see. This is for Indiana. And I don't even know that the Southland, Chicagoland cities got their federal dollars yet. I would expect that's because they don't like our the federal government is at odds with our governor and mayor and all of our officials around here. So I almost expect that to be a delay. But Indiana, what y'all doing? What are y'all doing? There was federal aid that came for Indiana for the disaster. And I want to see how much money it is here. Because I saw my brother, Andre Carson, talking about it. And I know this is not his district. Okay. So Indiana seeking federal storm assistance at time when Trump wants to scale it back. So people are talking about that. Let's see if we can find a video on that so we can understand what's happening here. And we know that there's funds available, but what I really want us to do is to begin to put together these teams for our primarily Black areas. All right, so this will be interesting to see. I think I found something on it.
Well, Scott, we now know the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and FEMA's preliminary damage assessments are done. That's the first step in collecting information required for a major disaster declaration request to get federal assistance. Exactly 1 week after Governor Mike Braun issued a statewide disaster declaration for severe weather and flooding, the impacts are far from over.
Here it's about sizing up who's going to be able to fix up their home. Do they have flood insurance? Do they not have? Are they underinsured?
The Indiana Department of Homeland Security says 22 counties have issued emergency declarations, and the state's expected to submit a request for a major disaster declaration to the federal government in the next day or so.
Federal response so far has been just to replace the funds we've spent across our state, which will far exceed $5 million.
Our number as of today turned into Hamilton County is north of 10 million just for Noblesville alone.
Noblesville Mayor Chris Jensen says they spent the morning assessing homes to determine the damage.
That was important for us, not just for the federal aid the governor referred to, but also important before we send volunteers into those homes. We want to make sure that they are structurally sound.
And the damage continues to add up, with IDHS reporting more than 20,000 Hoosiers have applied for state disaster relief assistance. And while communities wait to hear word on federal assistance for homeowners and renters, leaders are asking Hoosiers to hold tight.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. We will be with you every step of the way. We are here to serve Hoosiers and make sure that our citizens are taken care of and safe. And we're going to not stop until that is completed.
And right now, Indiana's State Disaster Relief Fund is offering up to $5,000 in emergency aid grants to Hoosiers in need of assistance. This fund allows families to get the basic essentials while displaced from their homes. We have a link to all the resources available to you right now, posted at WTHR.com.
All right. I'm sorry. That sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me. This is why we got to do for self. We have to start putting together right now all these little towns. I'm talking to my people, Black people in Northwest Indiana, in the Southland, Chicagoland area, where you got Black government, Black population, undervaluation of real estate and commercial property. Let's put together some advisory teams. The mayor, the village executive, whatever you call, put together these teams so that we can have an emergency response when these things happen in our neighborhood. Let me show you one more thing, because I really want you to be clear. There was a program that, and I'm not going to show it because it's too long, but it was called Race Matters When America is in Crisis. But there's so much. I don't even know how to, I don't even know what to pick, but I'm going to pick a couple of clips here so that we can really see what happens in our communities. Let me go to Roland Martin. We're going to go to this Roland Martin clip, and then I'm going to find another clip, because I want us to understand we have to stop believing that these people are going to come and save us. Dr. George Fraser always says a statement, and I don't know if I remember it verbatim, but he said, white folks not coming to save us. They're not thinking about us. They thinking about their family, their homes, their education, and our dollar. But in terms of saving us, making our communities a better place to live, no. The minister gave us that instruction in February. Let's make our community a better place to live. That goes beyond just saying, let's just go out there and talk to people. That means getting with government officials and sitting down and say, hey, what is our disaster preparedness plan? Yeah, we got the official one with emergency responders, but what's our unofficial disaster preparedness plan? Because we know they're not coming for us. And if they come for us, they're coming last. Let me show y'all what's happening over here in Gary.
Folks, in Gary, Indiana, buildings and homes are still without power 1 week after a historic tornado blew through the state. As of this morning, the local utility provider, NIPSCO, has restored power to 282,000 customers, but more than 83,000 businesses and homes remain in the dark due to the storm that tore across northwest Indiana on August 11th, packing winds near 100 miles an hour. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 52,000 Black residents live in the city, making up roughly 76% of Gary's total population. NIPSCO expects to restore 100% of power by Friday, but it's not just power. It's also food and other needs. Joining us right now is Gary Councilman at Large, Miles Tolliver. Councilman, glad to have you on the show. This has been almost 8 days. That is, listen, that's a lot people have to deal with. Listen, I'm from Houston. I've lived through various hurricanes. I've actually lived through 3 hurricanes, knocking our power for almost 2 to 3 weeks. That is not a good thing when you talk about in this heat.
Absolutely, absolutely. I first want to thank you for bringing attention to Gary, Indiana, and allowing for me to be on. Please excuse my attire. It's been all hands on deck at our shelter here in the great city of Gary, Indiana, where we are feeding residents around the clock and making sure they have the necessities that they need during the displacement at this time.
What are your needs? What do you need for people who are watching and listening?
Well, to be frank with you, Roland, in full transparency, our residents need they need help when it comes to our seniors that are on the 3rd floor, that don't have power, that haven't been down since Tuesday. We've been running meals up to them every day around the clock. I'm grateful that NIPSCO has restored some of our senior citizen buildings, but at this time, we just need really just packs where we can get things of shampoo, toothpaste, any type of hygiene things, and any supplies that we can get for cleaning out the houses at this time.
Okay, so if folks want to support, where are they sending the stuff to? Who's coordinating it? Where they can actually, let's say there are people who have vehicles or trucks or things along those lines, where can they drive stuff to?
So if they want to bring something, they can bring it down here to Gary City Hall. We will have somebody here. Again, they've been working around the clock. I want to definitely be grateful to our administration. They have been working around the clock, and you can drop those items off here. Please check our Facebook, as we will be bringing up some more information where we can give donations and things of that sort when it comes to money and anything else.
What assistance are y'all getting from the state? Are you getting any assistance from FEMA?
So FEMA, Congressman Mervan is actually getting the information out from FEMA right now, so we can be more clear, get more clarity on that issue. He is being giving us as much information at this time, but we haven't got all the information from FEMA yet. But it is coming, and we're just waiting on that. I want to tell you too, Roland, man, when this storm came in on August 11th, we assessed about over 2,000 damaged sites. But we have been trying to clear out the streets. We have been getting help from electric companies throughout the country, and we're grateful for that. But we just boots on the ground, Roland. My people are really hurting at this moment.
I just want to be clear. It's been 8 days that you have not heard directly from FEMA. And normally what happens, of course, the governor declares a disaster zone. First of all, has that happened?
Yes, the governor has made it a disaster zone. He did a disaster zone for the whole state of Indiana because we do have storms that are upward towards Indianapolis.
Gotcha. But FEMA has not been even with that distinction, they have not been in contact with the city.
So I believe they've been in contact with the city, Roland, but we don't have all the information. We just rolled out information today with our briefing, but I don't have all the clear. I don't have all the clear answers right now. But when I do get that information out, I would definitely give it out to my constituents. I'm only getting bits and pieces at this time.
Gotcha. Questions from our panel. Derek, you first.
Miles, I salute you all, and my prayers are with you all. But I'm just curious, when we prepare for both disasters, Mother Nature, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc., do you all get support from neighboring states as well? Do they respond? Do they engage? Because I know down here in the Southeast, where we get a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes, We have something in place where neighboring states like Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, et cetera, will come to the aid of Georgia. Do y'all have something like that in that area?
Not to my recollection. I don't know of any of those type of partnerships at this time. But I will tell you that this disaster is something I've never seen in my lifetime in 35 years. It's a generational storm. It's something definitely new to all of us. And I know that moving forward, me and my colleagues and the mayor administration, we are definitely going to put some things in place so that our residents can be reassured that we won't be put in a place like this again.
Rebecca?
What does it look like for different communities, especially different Black folks across the country, to provide some type of mutual aid to assist where government isn't properly assisting your community right now?
I would just tell them to reach out to city officials and reach out, and then we would let them know where those necessities can be used at. And we will, have a strong form of communication so that we can definitely get the materials needed for our citizens.
Robert?
So what can be done from a structural level? I know many cities have older areas that are very susceptible to natural disasters. What can be done from a coding or regulatory aspect to ameliorate the possibility of this happening again in the future?
Well, I think that with our electric company, they need to assess the whole city as a whole and to see which infrastructure is outdated and to see, to also, knock down the blight. We have a lot of wooded areas to make sure the trees are not by the lines and just to make sure that everything is up to code. Again, full transparency. I've looked at other communities around the area. Their infrastructure is a lot better shape than ours is. One of the questions that I did raise today with NIPSCO is, hey, when was the last assessment done? What are we doing for residents that are going to be displaced for now? It's 8 days, but you talked about earlier, Roland, about it being Friday. We might not have power until next Friday. And that's the thing. So when they talk about the 90 to 100% being done by Friday, that's not the case.
Wow. That is certainly not good. Again, give the information, any phone numbers or anything for the audience for watching and listening, how they can support the residents of Gary, Indiana.
So I would like them to, again, just DM the City of Gary government Facebook page. They can also call me on my direct line. I don't have a problem giving it out. It's 219-616-4181. Again, 219-616-4181. And then I will be able to handle those calls and make sure that we get everything we need for our citizens.
All right, then. Councilman Talbot, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom.
All right. So I put the council member's phone number in here if you want to volunteer. I'm going to be calling that number and posting resources and things like that on my Facebook page. And if I find out some other things or if we organize something, then I will certainly absolutely let you all know. In the meanwhile, again, we know that scam artists are out there, so be careful about what you donate to. But I'm asking, if you are a celebrity, if you are an athlete, and you have 6 figures where you can organize a group of people, maybe that you control. A lot of people have foundations. We have to start responding to disaster preparedness or disasters in our community. Once we get up out of this, maybe we can get on the front end of it and put a plan in place. And it's not enough for we know everybody needs a survival kit. We've been saying that in the nation for many, many years. We know that is needed. But what are we going to do when that's not enough? What do we do when people are in danger? I can only imagine what the crime is like right now in Gary, Indiana. Ain't nobody talking about that. But I saw that on TikTok. You're talking about a complete blackout. Ain't no power. You're already talking about an area that has challenges with crime. So what's happening? So let's continue to cover this. Let's continue to talk about it. Let's keep raising the issue. And you all know that I put in my book, I just did another book on self-governance, where we have to begin planning on how we are going to save ourselves. Every home needs a survival kit, and every municipality needs to begin to say, what are we going to do when it comes time to saving our people? How are we going to move? And I think we have enough resources to begin to do that. And I don't mean to be petty, but Louis Vuitton, them, forget them. That $5,000 or $6,000 that we might be spending on a purse, or that $100,000 on a watch, can go to one of these areas where our people are in trouble. All right, family. So with that, stay close. I'll inshallah be putting out more information on this. Support the movement. And you see the ways in which you can support going across the bottom. We have to continue to fund ourselves, whether we're giving $5, $10. If you say, well, hey, I don't have any cash, but I can ride out there and help pass out food, or I got some extra clothes that I can give to people. But this is a disaster that is in our backyard. Again, we even got our Chicagoland southern suburbs that are still suffering. So we have to step up. It's time for us to step up and save ourselves and do for self. Okay. Gary, Indiana is a very important city to us, and they should not be in the position that they're in. All right, family. We'll see you all tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central Time. Stay close. We're going to have some more conversations around what we can do to help the great city of Gary, as well as our southern Chicagoland areas. And maybe tomorrow we'll cover that, what their status is and what's going on with them. And, as I'm saying, I have begun to start documenting and organizing around what type of planning we can begin to do. But this is the separation work, because we already separated. We separated by resources, separated by environment, separated by responses. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum, family.